Storm screamed like a wounded beast, lashing the kingdom with rain that struck stone and flesh alike. The ancient cathedral loomed in the distance, its broken spire clawing at the lightning-filled sky. A violent gust ripped open its hidden door, and Sir Alaric staggered into the sacred ruins, his dark hair plastered to his face, his cloak heavy with water. His scarred forearm pulsed with faint red light, and he whispered, "Not tonight, not again," his voice strained with both fear and defiance. The whispers slithered across the walls, voices of betrayal that dug into his mind like daggers. They spoke of false oaths and broken loyalties, of names he had trusted. He pressed a trembling hand to the cold stone wall, but the sound of a maiden's scream shattered his resolve. The scream came from the forest beyond, high and desperate, clawing at his soul. A bell tolled far above, its mournful sound heavy with doom, and he muttered, "If this night is cursed, then let it begin here." Inside the cathedral, silence pressed against Alaric like suffocating weight. His boots splashed into shallow puddles, the sound echoing like a dying heartbeat. He whispered, "Why does the voice return now?" The whispers hissed louder, each word cutting deeper, weaving betrayal into his thoughts. He felt the presence of his old mentor in those voices, speaking truths he had once denied. Damp stone reeked of decay, mixed with the faint copper tang of old blood. The maiden's scream lingered in his mind, sharp enough to drive him forward, but the curse pulled him back with chains of doubt. "If betrayal waits," he muttered, hand trembling on his sword, "then let it face me here." The whispers twisted into names, trusted allies, loyal companions, even those he called brother. His scar burned hotter, forcing him to his knees as the voices stabbed into his skull. He pressed a hand to the wall, gasping, "Stop this madness," but the words rang hollow. The cathedral trembled with a deep groan, dust drifting down like snow, and a cruel laughter echoed from above. His breath froze in his throat and he whispered, "I am not alone here." His eyes darted upward, searching shadows that seemed to breathe. The laughter sharpened into something venomous, echoing from rafters high above. Alaric's chest heaved as he thought of the kingdom withering beneath the curse, and his role as its reluctant savior. He growled, "This place breathes betrayal." His sword thrummed in its sheath, resonating with a strange energy, as though it recognized the enemy before he did. Every step forward felt like trespass, every silence an ambush. Yet doubt gnawed at him. Had the betrayal already begun within those he loved? The bell tolled again, louder, the vibration shaking dust loose from ancient stone. Alaric staggered as his scar seared, forcing him to cry out, "Show yourself!" His voice cracked, echoing through the emptiness. For a breath, silence ruled, broken only by rain striking the roof. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped forward with deliberate grace. Cloaked, faceless, yet hauntingly familiar. Alaric froze, disbelief tearing at his heart. He whispered, "Not you. It cannot be you." Alaric's heart thundered as the cloaked figure stepped closer, its movements deliberate and calm. The cathedral's silence thickened until it suffocated, yet the voice inside his skull grew sharper, striking him with words of betrayal. He thought of his childhood in the royal court, when laughter still filled the halls, and he was only a boy dreaming of knighthood. His curse had begun then, a whispering wound no healer could mend, marking him as cursed by fate. He clenched his fist, recalling how the kingdom turned from him, branding him the omen of disaster. Still, a spark of resilience pushed against the weight of his despair. He muttered, "I will not break," though his voice trembled like a frayed bowstring. The cloaked figure halted in the moonlight, faceless yet familiar, and Alaric felt his chest ache with the pain of recognition. The scar flared again, forcing him to one knee as he gasped, "If I fall tonight, let it be fighting for those I failed." The storm outside battered the cathedral walls, but inside the whispers wove Alaric's past with venomous clarity. He saw the faces of those who once called him brother, their eyes now shadows of treachery. He recalled the day he was cast out, branded a cursed knight unfit to serve. His mentor's words haunted him even now. Power tests loyalty more than fear. Alaric growled, "I was never the traitor," though doubt gnawed at every word. His scar burned hotter, pulsing with a rhythm like the toll of the bell, as if mocking his denial. He forced himself to his feet, each breath ragged, and stared into the figure's void face. "You know my pain," he whispered, "but you cannot own it." A flicker of memory consumed him, his sister's laughter, stolen long ago by the very curse that bound him. She had believed in him when the court had turned away, and her disappearance had shattered his heart. The whispers clawed at the memory, twisting it into a cruel taunt, making her voice sound like mockery. Alaric staggered, pressing both hands to his ears, his voice breaking as he cried, "Stop! Leave her untouched!" His words echoed into the cathedral void, yet the figure stood motionless, as if feeding on his anguish. The torment broke into a quiet sob as he lowered his head, shoulders trembling. He muttered, "I fight not for the throne, I fight to see her smile again." The cloaked figure shifted at last, stepping forward with the slow grace of a predator. The shadows peeled away, revealing not a monster, but a man's silhouette hidden beneath heavy robes. Alaric's breath caught, his mind reeling with the possibility of truth he dared not face. Could this be a friend, long thought lost? Or a brother broken by vengeance? The scar seared as if it recognized the figure before his heart could. His sword trembled in his hand, its metal vibrating with anticipation of blood. "If you are ally, show your face," Alaric demanded, voice cracking with desperation. The figure only tilted its head, silent as stone, and the silence became unbearable. Alaric thought, "Perhaps the greatest betrayal is already before me." The tolling bell struck again, louder and deeper, as though echoing the heartbeat of the cursed knight. Alaric's scar flared with such intensity that he dropped to one knee, choking back a cry. The figure's cloak shifted in the wind, and the faint outline of armor beneath became visible. A surge of recognition stabbed at Alaric's soul, and tears mingled with the rain on his face. He whispered, "It cannot be you, my friend, my brother." His sword slipped slightly in his hand, his strength faltering beneath the crushing weight of betrayal. He thought of oaths sworn under starlit skies, promises that once held kingdoms together, now shattered by treachery. As the figure advanced, Alaric's voice cracked into a plea, "Tell me this is not truth. Tell me you did not choose betrayal." The storm's fury deepened, shaking the cathedral until its stones moaned like a dying beast. Alaric's scar throbbed with fire as the cloaked figure's silence stretched into torment. He remembered oaths sworn beside this very altar, when his brother in arms vowed eternal loyalty. Now that vow reeked of rot. Alaric's mind replayed moments of trust, battles fought back to back, secrets shared in youth, all twisted now into mockery. His hand trembled on his sword, the weight unbearable. "If you are my brother," he whispered, "why do you hide in shadow?" The scar seared hotter, as if answering for the figure's silence. He staggered, yet lifted his blade, voice breaking, "Show me the truth, even if it destroys me." The cloaked figure advanced, each step echoing across the ruined nave, slow and deliberate. Alaric's breath hitched as the robe shifted, revealing glimpses of armor etched with familiar sigils. His heart thundered with denial. He thought of knights training side by side, of laughter in firelight after battles hard won, and of promises made to protect their kingdom together. Rage erupted in his chest, hot and bitter, and he spat, "You swore to me, Siloam! You swore!" The figure paused but did not answer, the silence heavier than any blade. Alaric's scar flared like molten fire, forcing his knees to buckle, but he held his sword between them as a shield against the unbearable truth. The whispers rose again, louder, twisting around Alaric's mind like chains. They spoke of betrayal carved in blood, of Selim's ambition festering in secret. Alaric remembered the night of the siege, when the gates fell from within, and doubt struck him with cruel precision. Could Selim have been the hand that opened them? His chest ached with fury as he roared, "Answer me!" The cathedral shook with his voice, dust raining down from fractured beams. For the first time, the cloaked figure lifted its head, revealing only darkness where a face should be. The scar seared in reply, and Alaric realized the betrayal was no longer rumor, it was truth clawing at him from the shadows. Alaric's strength waned, his body trembling beneath the curse's grip, yet his heart refused surrender. "If you betrayed me," he growled, "then strike now and end this torment." The figure's silence split into a cruel laugh, low and venomous, echoing against the cathedral's hollow walls. Alaric flinched, for the sound was both familiar and twisted beyond recognition. His soul recoiled as memory and reality collided, leaving him trapped between rage and sorrow. He tightened his hold on the sword, sweat mixing with rain on his skin, and thought, better to die knowing truth than to live in its shadow. His eyes locked on the advancing figure, daring the darkness to reveal its face. The bell tolled again, its roar shaking every stone, and at last the figure pulled back the hood. Lightning illuminated the face beneath. Selim, once Alaric's sworn brother, now marked by scars of his own, and eyes cold with hunger for power. Alaric's breath shattered as he staggered back, whispering, "No, not you." The memories of loyalty collapsed into ash in an instant, the kingdom's betrayal embodied in the man before him. Selim sneered, "You were never meant to lead, Alaric. You were meant to fall." The scar seared like fire, and Alaric's knees buckled, yet he forced himself upright. He thought, if destiny is betrayal, then I will carve a new fate with blood. Alaric's chest constricted as Selim's face emerged from the shadows, scarred and twisted with ambition. The brother who once stood as his shield was now the blade at his throat. Memories of their vows shattered like glass beneath a hammer, each shard cutting deeper into Alaric's soul. "Why?" he whispered, voice raw with disbelief. Selim's lips curled into a cruel smile, his eyes devoid of warmth. "Because loyalty is weakness, and I will not die forgotten," he spat. The words struck like poisoned arrows, and Alaric's scar ignited in furious reply. He staggered but raised his sword, defiance trembling in his voice. "Then you will die as a traitor, not as my brother." The cathedral quaked with the weight of their confrontation, lightning splitting the sky outside as thunder roared like a herald of doom. Selim stepped forward, cloak shifting to reveal armor etched with ancient runes of betrayal. His voice dripped venom. "The kingdom was rotting, and you were too blind to see. I gave it a new master." Alaric's hands shook as rage surged, his scar pulsing with every heartbeat. He thought of the innocent suffering, of the kingdom enslaved under shadows, and bile rose in his throat. He snarled, "You destroyed what we swore to protect." The bell tolled again, drowning his fury in its relentless knell. Selim's laughter echoed, sharp and venomous, filling the hollow cathedral with a chilling resonance. "You cling to honor as though it ever saved you," he mocked, eyes gleaming with scorn. Alaric's scar flared, and pain drove him to one knee, but his gaze never faltered. His breath came ragged, his strength torn between curse and fury. "Honor is all I have left," he gasped, "and I'll wield it against you." The storm outside intensified, the rain hammering the roof like war drums. Dust rained from the rafters as the cathedral groaned under the weight of their conflict, as though the ancient walls themselves recoiled at betrayal so deep. Selim's words grew darker, his ambition unmasked. "The throne will bow to me, and the people will remember my name," he declared, voice like iron. Alaric staggered to his feet, fury boiling into resolve. He tightened his grip on his sword, his scar flaring so bright it illuminated the cracks in the cathedral walls. His voice was hoarse but steady. "They will remember you, Selim, as the one who betrayed his brother, his oath, and his kingdom." For a moment, silence smothered the space between them, broken only by the hiss of rain. Then Selim drew his blade, steel glinting with a malevolent glow, and the air thickened with the promise of blood. The moment cracked like thunder as steel hissed free of its sheath. Selim's blade gleamed under the lightning, a weapon forged for treachery, aimed now at the heart of his once brother. Alaric's scar burned like a living fire, fueling his resolve even as it consumed him. The storm's fury mirrored the storm in his soul, each toll of the bell, a countdown to their clash. He raised his sword, his voice breaking but unyielding. Then let destiny judge between us. Selim sneered, lowering his blade in challenge, his eyes gleaming with cold promise. The cathedral trembled, ancient stones straining, as betrayal solidified into war. The first clash of steel rang through the cathedral, a sound sharp enough to cut the storm itself. Sparks flew as Alaric's blade met Selim's with savage force. The scar burned brighter than fire, each strike sending agony through his arm, but his will refused surrender. Selim's eyes gleamed with malice, and his mocking voice pierced the thunder. You never understood, Alaric. I was chosen, not you. Alaric's heart stuttered at the words, his mind reeling. Chosen? His chest tightened with confusion, his soul clawing for truth. Through gritted teeth he growled, chosen by who? Their swords locked, the impact rattling the cathedral to its bones. Selim forced Alaric back, blade pressing against his, their faces inches apart, breaths harsh and ragged. The curse was never yours alone, Selim spat, his voice dripping venom. It was our family's legacy passed in silence, hidden by liars. The revelation struck Alaric harder than any blade, his grip faltering with shock. His scar pulsed like a heartbeat, as though the truth had awakened something deeper. You knew, Alaric whispered, his voice breaking. You knew, and you let me carry it alone. Selim's sneer cut deep. Better you suffer than I. You were always the kingdom's scapegoat. Rage and despair fused into Alaric's soul, his sword trembling with both fury and grief. Alaric staggered back, disbelief and rage twisting within him, his chest heaving like a man drowning. The whispers in the cathedral surged into deafening screams, now no longer faceless but his sister's voice, twisted, broken, crying his name. He fell to his knees, clutching his head, scar flaring brighter than the lightning above. Stop, he roared, voice tearing through the storm. Selim's cruel laughter echoed. She was never lost, Alaric. She was taken, and it was your failure that gave her to the darkness. The words shattered him, his soul collapsing under the revelation. His voice cracked into a sob. No, you wouldn't dare. Yet the truth lingered, heavier than any blade. Selim lowered his blade with deliberate cruelty, savoring his brother's torment. The curse bound us both, Alaric, but only I had the strength to use it. I bargained with the darkness that stole her, and in return I gained power. The words cut deeper than steel. Alaric's body trembled as his scar blazed brighter, fighting against his will. You sold her, Alaric whispered, voice breaking with horror. Selim's expression hardened, yet triumph gleamed in his eyes. Sacrifice is the currency of kingship. Alaric's soul screamed, rage igniting into a fury that tore through his pain. He rose slowly, sword gripped like judgment itself, whispering through clenched teeth. Then tonight I end your reign of betrayal. The bell tolled again, its sound deafening, as if the kingdom itself bore witness to their truth. Lightning illuminated their faces, brothers divided by betrayal, united only by blood and curse. Selim raised his sword high, declaring, This is destiny, Alaric. One of us must fall. Alaric's voice broke, but strength surged through him like fire. Then destiny will bleed before I let you win. Their blades clashed once more, sparks raining like falling stars, the cathedral trembling as though the gods themselves watched. The storm outside howled its approval, and within its chaos, the betrayal of blood became the forge of war. The storm and the cathedral became one, both trembling under the fury of two brothers locked in war. Steel screamed against steel, sparks raining with every strike. Alaric's scar blazed so brightly, it lit the cracked stone like fire, veins burning with the curse's wrath. Selim struck with calculated precision, his blade fueled by ambition, his eyes glinting with cruel triumph. Alaric staggered under the weight of every blow, but his heart burned hotter than his wounds. He thought of his sister's stolen laughter, the kingdom's broken cries, and his vow never to yield. Through clenched teeth he roared, "I fight not for power, Salem. I fight for the soul of what we lost." Salem drove Alaric back, his blade cutting sparks against stone pillars as he pressed forward with merciless speed. "The soul is already lost," he shouted, voice cutting through thunder. Alaric braced, sliding against slick stone, blood running from a wound on his shoulder. The scar pulsed violently, threatening to consume him from within. His vision blurred, yet through the agony he glimpsed the ghostly form of their sister, her eyes filled with sorrow, her lips whispering his name. The vision strengthened him, his sword rising once more with renewed force. "She is not lost while I draw breath," he bellowed, striking upward with desperate fury. Their blades locked again, steel grinding, sweat and rain mingling on their faces. Salem's sneer faltered for the first time, his voice low and venomous. "You were always too weak to carry our curse." Alaric forced his blade upward, veins bulging as the scar's light pulsed like a beating heart. His voice broke into a roar. "Weakness is what kept me human, Salem. Power turned you into a monster." With one final surge, he shoved Salem back, the impact shaking the cracked stone floor. Lightning split the sky overhead, and for a fleeting moment, Alaric's shadow loomed larger than his brother's, as though destiny itself leaned toward his defiance. Salem stumbled, but his fury only deepened, his face twisting with rage. "If weakness is your strength, then die with it," he roared, lunging with a strike meant to end everything. Alaric braced, scar flaring with violent light, his sword trembling as it caught the blow. The clash cracked the stone beneath their feet, the cathedral screaming with fractures. Alaric's knees buckled, but his will refused surrender. His thoughts burned with every soul betrayed, every life destroyed, and the hope his sister's voice had rekindled. "If I fall," he whispered, "it will be as the last night of truth." With a desperate cry he twisted, forcing Salem's blade aside. The final clash came like thunder's own wrath. Alaric drove his sword upward, fueled by agony, loyalty and love that would not die. Salem's blade faltered as sparks exploded between them, the force hurling him backward. For a heartbeat, silence drowned the cathedral. Then Salem struck the ground, breath torn from him. Alaric staggered, chest heaving, scar burning like a dying star. He lifted his sword high, every muscle trembling, his voice breaking. "This ends tonight, curse or no curse." Lightning struck through shattered glass, illuminating both brothers, one broken by ambition, the other shattered but unyielding. The climax had come, and destiny stood on the edge of their blades. The storm's rage began to fade, leaving the cathedral in eerie silence broken only by the drip of rain through shattered stone. Alaric stood trembling, his sword heavy, his scar burning like a final ember. Salem lay sprawled upon the cracked floor, armor dented, his once proud eyes dimming with defeat. Alaric's chest heaved as he whispered, "It didn't have to end this way." Salem coughed, blood on his lips, and forced a bitter smile. "You were always the weaker one," he rasped, voice fading with each word. Alaric felt the truth twist like a blade inside him. His brother's fall was victory, but not triumph. The kingdom might live, but his soul bore scars deeper than flesh. Alaric dropped to his knees beside Salem, tears mixing with rain on his face. His sword clattered to the ground, the sound echoing like a final judgment. "Brother," he whispered, voice breaking, "why choose darkness when we once had light?" Salem's gaze flickered with a shadow of regret before fading back to coldness. "Because light was never enough, and neither were you," he murmured, the last venom clinging to his dying breath. The scar on Alaric's arm pulsed violently, as though it mourned with him, then dimmed into silence. For the first time since his childhood, Alaric felt its weight lessen, as if part of the curse had been broken with Salem's fall. Yet freedom carried the taste of ash. The whispers that once filled the cathedral dissolved into silence, leaving only the echo of his heartbeat. Alaric lifted his gaze to the broken stained glass above, where the storm clouds parted to reveal a pale dawn. The ghostly image of his sister shimmered faintly, her sorrow replaced by a fleeting smile before fading into light. His chest clenched as he reached out, whispering, "I will keep fighting for you." The air was heavy with the scent of wet stone and blood, a reminder of what had been lost. Yet in that silence Alaric felt both more broken and more resolute than ever before, cursed still but not defeated. Alaric rose slowly, each step heavy with exhaustion, his hand brushing the ruined pews, as though searching for strength in the broken faith of the cathedral. His sword dragged slightly against the stone, no longer raised in fury, but carried as burden. The kingdom's fate weighed on his shoulders, a kingdom he had saved yet could not heal alone. He whispered to the silence, "If hope survives, it must be carried by more than one man." The tolling bell, cracked from the battle, let out a single fractured note that lingered like mourning. Alaric turned toward the light of dawn, his figure framed against the ruin, no longer just cursed, but changed forever. Outside the storm had broken, leaving the forest shrouded in mist. Alaric paused at the threshold, turning once to glance at the ruin behind him, a grave for his brother, for innocence, and for the man he once was. His scar pulsed faintly, a reminder of the curse that still lingered, but no longer controlled him. He whispered to the dawn, "The kingdom breathes again, though it bleeds. I will carry its wounds as I carry mine." As he stepped into the mist, the bell gave one final hollow echo, fading into silence. The camera lingered on his silhouette, disappearing into light, leaving only questions of what future awaited, and whether Betrayal's shadow truly died this night.